The galaxy was quiet, but the quiet was only an illusion. Deep in the void of space, in a region no map fully marked, a single human warship drifted silently. It was a vessel unlike any the Galactic throne had ever known. Its sleek black surface absorbed light, and its engines whispered only the faintest hum, barely a heartbeat in the endless dark. For decades, the galaxy had dismissed humanity as a minor species, incapable of real power. Now, that mistake would cost them everything. On board the warship, Captain Leora stood at the observation deck, her eyes fixed on the stars. Her crew moved with calm precision, each action measured, silent, perfect. Every man and woman on the ship knew their role, knew the stakes. Humanity had waited, hidden, watching the Galactic throne expand its reach, crushing entire systems, claiming worlds without mercy. And now, the moment had come to show the galaxy that humans were not to be underestimated. In the Galactic throne's capital, alarms suddenly blared. Screens flashed red, showing strange readings near the outer rim of a contested system. Counselors shouted, trying to make sense of the data. "What is this?" demanded the throne's high commander, his voice sharp and trembling. "Sensors report a vessel, an unknown human ship." How can this be? Humanity was supposed to be scattered, insignificant. The alien advisors exchanged worried glances. No one dared to speak the truth aloud. The human fleets were myths, stories told to frighten children, nothing more. And yet, the evidence on their screens was real. A warship, enormous and powerful, had uncloaked right at the edge of the system, appearing like a shadow in the void. Back on the human ship, Captain Leora activated the ship's cloaking systems. The warship shimmered faintly and disappeared from all sensors. The galaxy thought it had seen an illusion. But Leora knew the truth. She was inside a weapon of precision and strategy, ready to strike where the enemy was weakest. The first orders were simple. No rash attacks, no grand displays. Humans had learned patience. They would wait for the perfect moment, the exact location where fear could be sown with a single strike. Leora's crew monitored alien fleets, tracking movements, reading patterns, predicting reactions. Each human on board understood the plan. Patience was as deadly as firepower. Meanwhile, the throne's fleets scrambled. Ships launched from stations across the sector, shimmering through jump gates in their panic. The High Commander barked orders, his hands shaking over the control console. "Find the human vessel. It cannot escape. Bring it down before it reaches the inner systems." But every sensor, every scout, failed to locate the warship. It was as if it had never existed. The tension in the Galactic throne was rising. Council chambers filled with whispers of fear. "How many are there?" one advisor asked. "Could this be the beginning of a rebellion?" Another responded, his voice barely audible. "If it is only one ship, why is it so powerful? Why can we not even see it?" Inside the human warship, Leora allowed herself a small smile. The enemy had no idea they were being watched, no idea their movements were being predicted. Humanity's power was not in numbers alone. It was in strategy, in ingenuity, in the ability to strike from nowhere and vanish again. The first attack was planned carefully. A small but critical supply convoy, heavily guarded but predictable, traveled through a narrow corridor between two moons. The human warship moved silently into position, engines cooled to near silence, weapons locked on their target. Time seemed to stretch as the crew held their breaths, waiting for the exact moment to unleash devastation. And then it happened. With a flash of light and the roar of energy, the convoy was gone. Communication signals erupted from the throne's patrols in panic. Impossible! How could one ship destroy an entire convoy and leave no trace? The High Commander's face turned pale, realization dawning on him. Humanity was not weak. Humanity had been underestimated. And the cost of that mistake was only beginning. Leora watched the chaos unfold on distant screens, feeling neither joy nor hatred. This was survival, pure and simple. Humans had survived centuries of oppression, hiding in the shadows, learning, evolving. And now, they were making their presence known. Not for revenge, but to claim a place in the galaxy they had long been denied. As the warship retreated into the darkness between stars, the throne's fleets were left in disarray. Their pride, their certainty, shattered in an instant. Humanity had become a ghost in the galaxy, a force that could appear anywhere, strike anywhere, vanish without a trace. And the galaxy, for the first time, began to fear the name human. Captain Leora turned from the observation deck, her mind already on the next move. The war had only just begun. Patience, strategy, and relentless precision would guide them. Humanity's shadow had emerged, and the Galactic Throne would soon learn that some mistakes could never be forgiven. The Galactic Throne's command center was in chaos. Alarms blared, lights flashed, and the High Commander's voice boomed across the room, sharp and urgent. Prepare every fleet. Find that human warship before it strikes again. He slammed his fist on the console, sending papers and hollow projections flying. But even with every patrol launched, every sensor scanning the void, the human ship remained invisible. It was like chasing a shadow that moved faster than thought. On board the human warship, Captain Leora watched the enemy's panic unfold through distant transmissions. The crew worked silently, each member a master of their station. Communications were jammed selectively. Sensors recorded enemy movements without giving away their own position. The humans did not fear the alien empire. They feared only failure, and failure was not an option. A lieutenant reported quietly, "High Commander's fleet is reorganizing. They are sending scouts in multiple directions, trying to trap us." Leora nodded. "Let them. Their fear will guide us. Patience is our weapon as sharp as any cannon." The first strike had been a warning, but the humans knew it would not be enough. The Galactic Throne would retaliate with everything it had. The humans needed a plan that would not only survive the retaliation but also turn it to their advantage. In the Throne's capital, tension had reached a boiling point. Advisors argued bitterly, each blaming the other for underestimating humanity. "We thought they were weak," one shouted. "We dismissed them as a primitive race," another replied. "And now one ship destroys our supply lines without warning. How can we fight what we cannot see?" The High Commander clenched his teeth. "We will find them. We must. Deploy stealth trackers to the sector. Nothing escapes the throne." Meanwhile, the human warship moved silently through the asteroid fields of the outer rim. Its sensors were sharp, its weapons ready, but Leora did not rush. She studied the enemy's movements, predicting where they would strike, where they would make mistakes. Each alien ship that moved hastily through space made tiny errors, and humans would exploit every one of them. A young crew member, barely trained, hesitated at her station. Leora noticed. "Do not fear the unknown," she said calmly. "They believe they are supreme. They believe we are weak. That is their mistake. We do not need numbers. We only need precision." The humans observed the alien scouts. One by one, they picked apart the enemy's formations using clever tricks and timing. Small but critical systems were sabotaged remotely. Ships misfired, weapons misaligned, and sensors went blind in key locations. Panic spread through the alien fleet like wildfire. The Throne's commanders struggled to understand. Why is this happening? How can one ship, one human vessel, cause so much damage? Fear had never entered their vocabulary before. They had ruled the galaxy for centuries, claiming stars as their own, enslaving planets without mercy. And now, for the first time, they realized that not all species were weak, not all civilizations could be crushed. Back on the human ship, Leora allowed herself a moment of reflection. Humanity had survived countless threats, countless wars, all while hiding in the shadows. Now they had the tools, the knowledge, and the courage to make the galaxy understand that humans were not prey. They were predators when necessary. The humans set a trap. A fleet of the Galactic Throne moved into a narrow asteroid corridor, believing it would be impossible for a human ship to approach undetected. Leora smiled. "They are confident," she murmured. "Confidence is dangerous when faced with truth." When the Throne's fleet entered the corridor, the human warship struck. Energy blasts ripped through shields, engines exploded, and communications were lost. The attack was swift, surgical, leaving the enemy fleet in confusion. Humans vanished before reinforcements could respond. The aliens were left staring into the empty corridor, realizing they had walked into a trap they could not see. The High Commander's face was pale. "Impossible," he whispered, staring at the remaining sensors. "This is one ship, but it moves like an army. How can this be?" Leora observed silently. She did not celebrate, did not gloat. The humans had made their point. They had demonstrated that fear could be created, that power could be felt even without overwhelming numbers. And the message was clear: humanity would not be ignored. Across the galaxy, news began to spread of the human ship that struck without warning, that moved unseen, that outsmarted the greatest empire the galaxy had ever known. Rumors became stories, stories became fear. And fear, as the humans knew, was more powerful than any fleet of ships. Captain Leora turned from the observation deck, her mind already on the next move. The galactic throne was wounded, disoriented, and confused. But they were not yet defeated. Patience, planning, and precision would continue to be humanity's greatest weapons. And as long as humans remained unseen, untouchable, and unstoppable, the galaxy would learn a lesson that no empire had ever learned before. Never underestimate a species that has learned to survive against all odds. The silence of space was broken by sudden explosions. The human warship had struck again. This time, the target was a convoy carrying weapons, fuel, and troops for the galactic throne. Captain Leora had studied their route for weeks, predicting exactly when and where they would be most vulnerable. The alien empire had grown arrogant, believing that one ship could never challenge them. That arrogance would cost them dearly. On board the human warship, the crew worked in perfect synchronization. Energy beams charged, missiles locked onto targets, and the ship moved like a shadow, striking without warning. Every action was precise, every calculation exact. Leora's eyes scanned the holographic displays, noting the smallest details. "Steady, wait for the perfect moment," she said quietly. The convoy entered a narrow passage between two moons. It was the only way through the system without being detected by the moon's gravity shields. The humans had waited for this moment. With a silent command, Leora gave the order to fire. Explosions tore through the convoy. Ships were obliterated in seconds. Communications from the fleet went silent, replaced by chaos and confusion. The Galactic Throne soldiers scrambled to respond, but the human ship was already gone, vanished into the darkness of space like a ghost. In the throne's capital, alarms blared louder than ever. The High Commander's face was pale, his voice shaking as he addressed his council. "This cannot be. One ship destroyed an entire convoy? Our weapons, our fleets. How is this possible?" Advisors whispered nervously, fear spreading like fire. "It is impossible to fight what we cannot see," one said. "We underestimated them," another added. "They are not weak. They are powerful." The High Commander slammed his fist on the console. "Enough. We must adapt. Send all fleets to find that ship. Track it with every sensor. Do not let them strike again." But even as he spoke, he knew it would not be easy. The humans had shown that they were clever, patient, and unpredictable. They struck like lightning and disappeared before anyone could react. On the human warship, Leora smiled faintly. She knew the aliens were panicking, making mistakes in their desperate hunt. That panic worked in humanity's favor. The crew monitored enemy fleets, noting every error, every miscalculation. The humans would not fight blindly. They would fight with intelligence, with patience, and with precision. A young officer, new to battle, looked worried. "Captain, they are sending a massive fleet after us. Can we survive this?" Leora's eyes were calm, but her words were sharp. "We do not need to fight them all at once. We strike where they are weak. One move at a time. That is how humans survive. That is how humans win." The alien fleets approached cautiously, scanning every inch of space, deploying trackers and decoys, hoping to corner the human ship. But Leora anticipated every move. The humans had studied the enemy's strategies, learned their habits, and discovered patterns in their arrogance. Every step the aliens took was already part of the humans' plan. The warship slipped through asteroid fields and nebulas, appearing in unexpected locations. It struck supply depots, patrol ships, and communication relays, creating confusion and fear. The Galactic Throne realized that one ship alone could not possibly cause so much destruction. But the humans did not fight like any other species. They were not bound by fear, by tradition, or by expectation. They were clever, adaptable, and relentless. Back in the Throne's command center, the High Commander stared at the reports. How can one ship do all this? It is as if they are everywhere at once. His hands shook. We must rethink everything. Humanity cannot be underestimated. They are not prey. They are predators. On the human warship, the crew continued their mission with quiet determination. They did not celebrate, did not gloat. Their victories were tools, their strikes were messages. Humanity had survived centuries of being dismissed, of being ignored, of being hunted. Now, they were announcing to the galaxy that humans were not to be taken lightly. The convoy was destroyed, the aliens shocked, and the humans were gone once again, leaving nothing behind but wreckage and fear. Across the galaxy, whispers began to spread of the ship that struck without warning, that moved like a shadow, that could not be caught. Rumors turned to stories, stories to legends, and legends into dread. Captain Leora turned from the observation deck, already planning the next move. The humans had shown the galaxy their strength, their intelligence, and their courage. The Galactic Throne would recover, but the lesson had been learned. One underestimated species, hidden in the shadows, could strike with the force of a storm and vanish before anyone could respond. The war had only just begun, and humanity's shadow was growing. Every alien fleet that moved would now do so with caution, knowing that somewhere, unseen, the humans were watching, waiting, and ready. And when the humans struck again, the galaxy would learn that nothing, not power, not numbers, not arrogance, could stand against a species that had survived against all odds. The Galactic Throne was shaken. For the first time in centuries, fear had entered their ranks. The alien scientists pored over every report from the destroyed convoy and the patrol ships. They ran simulations, checked every sensor, every piece of data, and all led to one impossible conclusion. The humans had technology far beyond what anyone had imagined. Cloaking devices, stealth engines, advanced weapons, all perfectly integrated into a single ship. The Throne's advisors whispered among themselves, panic growing in their voices. They have been watching us, waiting, one said. This is not a single ship. This is a weapon built with strategy and patience. The High Commander slammed his fist onto the table. Enough. Find them. I do not care if it takes 100 fleets. Track the humans. Understand them. And destroy them before they strike again. But even he knew it would not be easy. The humans were clever, unpredictable, and most importantly, invisible until they chose to reveal themselves. Back on the human warship, Captain Leora watched the galaxy with calm eyes. They are learning, she said quietly to her lieutenant. Good. Let them think they can catch us. It will make their mistakes bigger. The humans had planned for this. They had studied the Galactic Throne for decades, learning their tactics, their habits, their arrogance. Every move the Throne made was predictable, because the humans understood one thing better than any alien species: the enemy's fear would guide them. As the alien fleets tried to predict the human ship's next move, small but precise strikes continued. Communication relays were disabled, supply lines were cut, and patrol ships disappeared into the void. Every hit was a message: humans were not weak, humans were not alone, and humans would not be ignored. The Throne's scientists finally discovered the ship's cloaking technology. Shock and disbelief spread through the command center. It cannot be, one scientist exclaimed. Their stealth is perfect. Sensors cannot detect them until they appear. How is this possible? The High Commander's face was pale. "This is the humans' advantage," he said slowly. "They strike when we are blind. They vanish before we can react. And every move we make only plays into their hands." Leora smiled faintly as she watched the enemy flail. Humans had mastered the art of patience. They did not rush into battle. They did not fight where the enemy was strong. They chose when and where to strike, and every attack was a calculated lesson in fear and precision. A young crew member asked nervously, "Captain, do you think they will find us?" Leora shook her head. "They will try. But they cannot think like us. They cannot predict patience, foresight, and strategy. They can only react. And reaction is slow, weak, and predictable." The human ship moved through the asteroid belts, appearing and disappearing in the blink of an eye. The throne's fleets followed decoys, chasing shadows, while the real ship struck from places no one expected. Communications were jammed selectively, leaving alien commanders confused and desperate. Fear spread among the ranks, and with fear came mistakes. One patrol fleet, overconfident, moved too close to the warship's calculated path. Energy beams ripped through their shields, and their engines failed. The surviving ships fled in panic, spreading news of the human ship's lethal precision. Across the galaxy, whispers began to grow. Humans were not just a threat, they were a force that no one could catch, no one could predict. Inside the human ship, Leora's calm presence inspired her crew. They did not celebrate. They did not gloat. They understood the bigger picture. The humans were revealing their strength, showing that intelligence, strategy, and patience could defeat even the most powerful empires. Every strike, every disappearance, was a lesson in humility for the galactic throne. The alien empire was beginning to understand that humans were not just another species. They were a force that could not be ignored, a civilization that had survived the galaxy's greatest dangers and emerged stronger. And now, hidden in the shadows, they were taking control of the narrative, proving that cunning and strategy could outweigh sheer numbers. As the warship glided silently through space, Leora looked out at the stars. The galaxy had never seen humans like this before. They had survived against all odds, adapted, and now had the chance to reshape the future. The galactic throne might recover from its panic, but the humans had already planted a seed of fear that would grow with every system they touched. The first lesson had been taught. The humans would strike again, and the throne would be forced to learn more. Every move, every decision, would now be shadowed by the knowledge that one unseen species could strike without warning and disappear like a ghost. Humanity was no longer a story told by children. Humanity had arrived, and the galaxy would never forget. The galactic throne was furious. The humans had destroyed convoys, ambushed fleets, and vanished without a trace. Now, they decided that the time for patience was over. Every fleet in the sector was called into battle, every weapon deployed, every strategy set. The High Commander spoke with sharp authority. "We will crush the human ship. No longer will we let them strike and vanish. We will hunt them down, and when we do, they will pay." On board the human warship, Captain Leora watched the preparations of the alien fleets. "They think numbers will save them," she said quietly. "But numbers do not matter when they are blind, when they move in patterns we understand." The throne launched its assault. Hundreds of ships moved in formation, scanning every sector, coordinating attacks with unmatched precision. The humans were outnumbered, but outnumbered never meant defeated. Leora studied the enemy's formations carefully, predicting every movement, every angle of attack. The first wave of alien ships entered a narrow asteroid field, thinking it would slow the human warship. Instead, it became the perfect trap. Humans struck with precision, destroying key ships while remaining undetected. Energy beams sliced through shields, engines exploded, and fleets broke apart in confusion. The High Commander's voice was tense over communications. "What is happening? Our fleets are falling apart. One ship cannot do this alone." Advisors scrambled to explain, but no one could. Fear had taken hold, and fear made every decision slower, every command weaker. Leora's crew worked silently, their faces calm, their actions precise. Each strike was calculated. They targeted engines, weapons and communications, not to destroy everything, but to create chaos. The throne's forces could not adapt fast enough, their numbers meaningless against human strategy. A young officer asked nervously, "Captain, they are bringing in reinforcements. Can we handle them all?" Leora's eyes were steady, full of resolve. "We do not need to handle them all. We only need to strike where it matters. The rest will fall into our traps." As the battle continued, the human warship moved like a ghost, appearing in unexpected locations, striking when the aliens least expected. Supply lines were destroyed, communication hubs exploded, and patrol fleets vanished. Each attack was a lesson in patience and cunning, a reminder that humans were not to be underestimated. The High Commander watched helplessly. "They are everywhere, and nowhere. How can we fight what we cannot see?" The council was in panic. "We must retreat," one advisor shouted. "No. We must regroup and counterattack," another cried. Confusion spread like wildfire, and the humans' plan thrived in that chaos. Using stealth and superior strategy, the human warship lured parts of the alien fleet into narrow corridors and asteroid belts. Energy blasts destroyed engines and weapons, while the main warship remained unseen. Each move was precise, each strike surgical. The Galactic Throne's fleets were large, but that size became their weakness. They could not react fast enough, and the humans exploited every delay. Across the battlefield, alien soldiers whispered in fear of the human ship that moved like a shadow, striking without warning and disappearing before retaliation. Reports spread that one ship alone had crippled fleets, destroyed supplies, and left commanders in despair. The legend of humanity's precision and stealth grew stronger with every encounter. On the human warship, Captain Leora allowed herself a quiet smile. The Empire had underestimated humans for centuries. They had thought strength was only in numbers, in raw power. Humans had shown that intelligence, strategy, and patience were far more deadly. They did not fight recklessly, they fought smart, and that made them unstoppable. As the Galactic Throne's counterattack faltered, the humans disappeared again, vanishing into the darkness of space. Their presence had been felt, their power demonstrated, but no one could locate them. Panic and fear spread across the Empire, leaving commanders unsure of every decision, hesitant to act. The High Commander stared at the reports, pale and exhausted. "This is not one ship. This is a force we cannot understand. How can a single vessel defeat entire fleets?" But even as he spoke, he knew the truth. Humanity had survived, adapted, and mastered the art of war in ways the throne had never imagined. Captain Leora turned from the observation deck, her eyes on the stars. The humans had proven their strength. They had survived attacks, created fear, and outsmarted the most powerful empire in the galaxy. And the message was clear: humanity could strike anywhere, vanish without a trace, and teach the galaxy lessons that would not be forgotten. The battle was over, but the war had just begun. Every fleet that moved would now consider the humans not just a threat, but a legend. And when the humans struck again, they would do so with the same cunning and precision that had made their first victory unforgettable. The Galactic Throne believed it had survived the humans' attacks. Fleets were reorganized, patrols doubled, and command centers reinforced. But the humans were patient, waiting for the perfect moment to strike where it hurt the most. Captain Leora studied the enemy, reading patterns in every communication, every movement, every error. Humanity had learned that patience was as powerful as firepower. The target was clear, a vital command station at the heart of the throne's empire. It was a fortress in space, heavily shielded, surrounded by layers of defense fleets. Destroying it would not only cripple the Empire's command but also send a clear message: humanity would not be ignored. On board the human warship, the crew moved silently. Each member understood the importance of this mission. Weapons were calibrated, engines cooled, cloaking systems optimized. Leora addressed her crew quietly. "This is the moment they will remember. Strike with precision, vanish without trace, and let them feel the consequences of underestimating humans." The alien fleets were unaware of the humans' approach. They assumed the warship had retreated after the last battle. Their sensors were tuned to detect conventional movements, but humans did not move conventionally. They slipped through asteroid belts, moved through dark nebulae, and approached the command station from a path no one expected. The first sign of attack came as energy beams tore through defensive satellites. The throne's soldiers scrambled, trying to defend their station, but the humans were already inside the inner perimeter. The command station shuddered as explosions erupted in strategic locations. Communications were cut, power grids failed, and defensive turrets fell silent. In the command center, alarms screamed. The High Commander's face was pale. Impossible! How can one ship do this? Our defenses are impenetrable. Advisors rushed to consoles, trying to assess the damage, but the reality was terrifying. The humans were everywhere at once, striking with precision, disappearing before retaliation. Leora's crew remained calm. They had trained for this, planned for this, and executed every move flawlessly. Missiles struck engines, energy pulses disabled shields, and the humans' attacks targeted the exact systems that would create maximum chaos. The throne's empire, the most powerful in the galaxy, was crumbling before their eyes. A young officer whispered nervously, "Captain, they're sending everything they have now. Will we survive?" Leora's eyes were steady, unwavering. "We will. They have numbers, but we have precision, strategy, and foresight. Watch, learn, and act. That is how humans win." The command station's defenses faltered completely. Explosions tore through the core, and the alien soldiers realized too late that they were trapped. Panic spread through the throne's ranks. Messages from commanders went unanswered, fleets became disorganized, and fear spread like wildfire. The High Commander's voice trembled as he spoke to his council. This is our worst mistake. We underestimated them. We believed humanity was weak, insignificant. And now, we face the consequences." The human warship did not linger. Cloaking systems activated, engines purred silently, and the vessel vanished into the void, leaving destruction behind and no trace of its presence. The throne's fleets were left reeling, disoriented, and demoralized. The Empire realized something terrifying. Humans could strike anywhere, anytime, and disappear without warning. Across the galaxy, stories began to spread. A single human warship had destroyed convoys, ambushed fleets, and now, crippled the heart of the galactic throne. Rumors turned into legends, and legends turned into fear. No one could predict when or where humans would strike next, and that uncertainty terrified the alien empire. On the human warship, Leora stood on the observation deck, gazing at the stars. Humanity had proven its power, intelligence, and patience. They had shown that survival, strategy, and foresight could triumph over sheer numbers and arrogance. The galactic throne would recover, but the lesson had been taught. Underestimating humans was a mistake that could never be forgiven. As the warship moved silently into the darkness, Leora spoke softly, almost to herself. They thought they controlled the galaxy. They thought they were supreme. But they learned too late. Humans are not to be underestimated. The first strike had ended. The Empire was wounded, its command broken, and fear now ruled its fleets. The humans had demonstrated what true strategy, patience, and precision could accomplish. And the galaxy, for the first time, understood that humans were a force unlike any other, a species that had survived, adapted, and now ruled the shadows of space with unmatched cunning. The galaxy had changed. The galactic throne, once proud and untouchable, now trembled at the thought of humanity. Entire fleets were still recovering from the devastating strike on their command station. Systems that were once secure now lay in chaos. Communication networks were disrupted, supply lines destroyed, and fear had spread to every corner of the Empire. Humanity had proven its power, not through sheer numbers, but through strategy, intelligence, and patience. On board the human warship, Captain Leora watched the stars quietly. Her crew moved calmly, knowing that the battle was won, but the war was only beginning. Humans had survived countless threats in the past, and now, they had shown the galaxy that survival came with power. They were no longer a hidden species, no longer a whisper in the void. Humans were a force to be reckoned with. Reports from distant sectors arrived one after another. Fleets of the throne were in disarray, commanders argued over strategy, and fear had slowed every operation. Other alien civilizations began to take notice, realizing that humanity was not to be underestimated. Whispers spread from one system to another. The humans, they are not like us. They are different. They are strong. And they strike without warning. Leora turned to her crew. We have made our presence known. The galaxy knows that humans are not weak, not insignificant. But this is just the beginning. Our strength is not only in war, it is in being prepared, in strategy, in patience. The galaxy will learn this lesson well. The humans had not sought glory or conquest. Their purpose was survival, but survival had taught them dominance. Every move had been calculated, every strike precise. They had shown that intelligence and courage could outweigh numbers, that a single human warship could bring an empire to its knees. In the throne's capital, the High Commander addressed his council, his face grim. We underestimated them. We believed one ship could not challenge our empire. We were wrong. They are not just a threat, they are a force that cannot be ignored. Fear had replaced arrogance, and the council knew that recovery would take time, if it was even possible. Across the galaxy, humans began to be seen differently. They were respected, feared, and admired. No longer dismissed as primitive, humans were now considered one of the most formidable species in the galaxy. Their technology, strategy, and patience had changed the balance of power. Back on the warship, Leora looked at distant stars and whispered, "The galaxy thought it was safe. It was wrong. They have only seen a fraction of what humanity can do." Her crew understood. The humans had shown their power, but they had also left a message. The galaxy must respect them, or face consequences. As the warship moved silently toward the outer rim, a new mission began to form. The humans would continue to watch, learn, and prepare. They would not strike without reason, but they would strike with precision when necessary. Humanity had survived the galaxy's greatest challenges, and now, it was ready to shape the future. Stories of the human warship spread like fire through space. Commanders whispered warnings, children grew up hearing tales of the ghost ship that could strike anywhere, and empires reconsidered their arrogance. Humans were no longer hidden. They were legends, and legends commanded respect, fear, and attention. The final scene aboard the human ship was quiet. Stars stretched infinitely in every direction. Captain Leora stood at the observation deck, eyes steady, mind calculating the possibilities of the future. The war had demonstrated humanity's strength, but the galaxy was vast. Challenges would arise, new threats would appear, and humans would face them all with the same intelligence, strategy, and courage that had brought them this far. As the camera pulled back, showing the warship disappearing into the darkness, a voice whispered across the galaxy, "The humans are watching. The humans are waiting. And when they strike again, the galaxy will remember why underestimating them is the gravest mistake of all." The shadows of space were no longer empty. Humanity had arrived, not as conquerors, but as a force that the galaxy would never ignore. The throne had learned its lesson. Other civilizations would soon learn theirs. And for humanity, the future was full of possibilities, challenges, and victories yet to come.